Hi, this is Cheryl Peterson with Healing Science Today. I'm going to read a contemporary Christian Science sermon. I'm going to read from the English Standard Version of the Bible, copyrighted by Crossway Bibles, and from 21st Century Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, a modern version of Mary Baker Eddy's Science and Health. Subject, Truth. Golden text is from Jeremiah. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Genesis. The two angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed himself with his face to the earth and said, My lords, please turn aside to your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet. Then you may rise early and go on your way. They said, Oh no, we will spend the night in the town square. But he pressed them strongly, so they turned aside to him and entered his house. And he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. As morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, Up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be swept away in the punishment of the city. But he lingered. So the men seized him and his wife and his 2 daughters by the hand, the Lord being merciful to him, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. And as they brought them out, one said, Escape for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley, except escape to the hills, lest you be swept away. Then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and all the valley and all the inhabitants of the cities and what grew on the ground. But Lot's wife behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. 21st Century Science and Health. The way to escape the misery of sin is to stop sinning. There is no other way. Through different mind patterns, the body becomes suddenly weak or abnormally strong, showing human mind to be the producer of mortal strength or weakness. A sudden joy or grief has caused what is termed instantaneous death. Because thinking originates unseen most of the time, we should continually watch the mental state and stop it from unwittingly producing adverse effects. I never saw a patient who did not recover when the belief in the disease was gone. Remove the leading error or governing fear of this lower mind, and you remove the cause of disease as well as the morbid or excited action of any organ. Disease and functional difficulties can both be healed. When God heals the sick or the sinning, it is better if the people know what mind has done. It is also helpful to know how the human mind dupes us to make us sick or sinful. Once we've learned human mind's tactics, we can expose its unconscious and subconscious ways in which it accomplishes iniquity. Paradoxically, many of us are willing to tell people about the power of good resident in divine mind, but we hesitate to point out the evil in human thought. Why the reluctance to expose error and stop repeating mistakes? We hesitate because people like us better when we tell them their virtues than when we tell them their vices. It requires the spirit of truth and love to point out faulty thinking. We risk human disapproval for the sake of doing right and benefiting humanity. Who is telling humankind of the enemy in the ambush? Does the informant see a foe? Listen and be wise. You can escape from error. You can also detect the unfaithful people who saw the danger and gave no warning. Save yourself as Jesus saved. Strive. Advance spiritually. Constantly turn away from the objects of the human mind and look toward the imperishable things of spirit. If honest, you will be in earnest from the start and joyfully gain a little each day in the right direction. The elusive evidence of physical sense certainly differs from the testimony of spirit. Physical sense lifts its voice with the arrogance of reality and boast, "I am completely dishonest and people don't know it. I can commit adultery, cheat, lie, steal, and murder. I evade detection by pretending to be the victim. My tendency is irrational, my feelings are deceitful, and my purpose is fraudulent. But I aim to make my short span of life one big fling. Resistance to spirituality is fantastic. How it succeeds where the good purpose waits. The world is my territory. I am popular, surrounded by materialism. However, a reality check, an accident, or the law of God may at any moment annihilate my peace, for all my fancied joys are fatal. Like bursting lava, I increase but to my own despair, because the overrated mortal life is a consuming fire." The testimony of spirit, soul, maintains, "I am spirit. Individuals whose perceptions are spiritual are my likeness, reflecting the infinite understanding, for I am infinity. The beauty of holiness, the completion of being, and imperishable glory, all are mine, for I am God. I give spirituality, for I am truth. I include and impart all happiness, for I am love. I give life without beginning and without end, for I am life. I am supreme. I am an unlimited source of good ideas, for I am mind. I am the substance of all, because I am who I am." Mark. John said to Jesus, "Teacher, we saw someone casting out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he was not following us." But Jesus said, "Do not stop him, for no one who does a mighty work in my name will be able soon afterward to speak evil of me. For the one who is not against us is for us. For truly I say to you, whoever gives you a cup of water to drink because you belong to Christ will by no means lose his reward. Whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him if a great millstone were hung around his neck and he were thrown into the sea. And if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life crippled than with 2 hands to go to hell, to the unquenchable fire. And if your foot causes you to sin, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life lame than with 2 feet to be thrown into hell." 21st Century Science and Health. Who has found human mind sufficient to satisfy the demands of lack and anguish? Our desires and aspirations ache to be fulfilled, and we only feel rewarded when we stop limiting infinite mind to finite resources. Infinite mind can't lose its character as inexhaustible love, eternal life, omnipotent truth. I have never supposed the world would immediately leave everything for divine science, or that people would instantly stop believing in sin, disease, and death. However, I do state that as a result of teaching Christian Science in the late 19th century and early 20th century, ethics and moderation have received a stimulus. Health has been restored and people are living longer. If that was the fruit, then what will the harvest be when this science is more generally understood? Paul asked the megalomaniac leaders the same question we ask today concerning healing and teaching. You who brag about the law, do you dishonor God by breaking the law? Jesus annulled fleshly law by healing contrary to those human laws. We have the gospel. We propose to follow Jesus' model by obeying spiritual law which can overcome material law. Two essential points of truth's law are that life and spiritual being do not die, and that God is not the author of sickness. Let us acknowledge science. Let us stop accepting theories based on temporal sense testimony. Give up faulty models and elusive icons. Let us have one God, one mind, and that one perfect, producing Spirit's own models of excellence. Colossians. Therefore, let no one pass judgment on you in questions of food and drink, or with regard to a festival, or a new moon, or a Sabbath. These are a shadow of things to come, but the substance belongs to Christ. Let no one disqualify you, insisting on asceticism and worship of angels, going on in detail about visions, puffed up without reason by his sensuous mind, and not holding fast to the head, from whom the whole body, nourished and knit together through its joints and ligaments, grows with a growth that is from God. If with Christ you died to the elemental spirits of the world, why, as if you were still alive in the world, do you submit to regulations? Do not handle, do not taste, do not touch, referring to things that all perish as they are used, according to human precepts and teachings. These have indeed an appearance of wisdom in promoting self-made religion and asceticism and severity to the body, but they are of no value in stopping the indulgence of the flesh. 21st century science and health. Theologies that start from the false premise that God created human beings try to convert a disordered person into a Christian. These teachings that define people as both physical and mental, with a mind at the mercy of matter for every function, formation and manifestation, start from the lowest instead of the highest concept of being, and reject the divine principle which created us spiritually. We can't produce the harmony and unity of spirit from anatomical or biotheological positions. The offspring of God don't start from dust or a material gene. The offspring of God are in and of spirit, divine life, and so forever continue. Truth has no starting point. Divine mind is our soul and gives us unending dominion to image forth good. We were not crafted from an indefensible basis. We were not commanded to obey human laws, which spirit never made. Our sphere is in the higher law of mind. Divine mind is the source of perpetual and harmonious movement, of which there is no inertia to stop it. Sickness is real, is true, that is, to the patient's frightened perception. Disorders and problems are more than imagination. They are solid convictions of fear or ignorance, and therefore need to be dealt with through an accurate comprehension of the truth of being. If soul healing is abused by those who are wise in their own conceit, treatment becomes an irksome troublemaker. Instead of scientifically effecting a cure, a boaster in science starts petty crossfires over those who are disabled and sick. Humanity should not be knocked around with a superficial and heartless remarks like, "It's all in your head. Matter is not real. Be more spiritual. You really are perfect." When the science of mind was a newly tapped into revelation, I had to impart the hue of spiritual ideas from my own spiritual condition. Teaching was done through the meager channel of the human language, both verbally and by means of a manuscript. As former beliefs were gradually expelled from my thought, the teaching became clearer, until finally the shadow of old errors was no longer cast on Christian Science. I do not insist that anyone can exist in the flesh without food and clothes, but I do believe that individuals are image, spiritual, and live in mind, not human mind. Divine science must be accepted at this period by induction. We admit the whole because a part is proved, and that part illustrates and proves the entire principle.